All right. Hmm. All right. Well, I guess looks like we're finally live. Holy cow, running this is really weird. But I gotta listen to that. So I'm gonna pretty much take this off, turn this off, turn that off. This looks like we're finally live. Oh wow, we gotta fix that. But listen to that. So I'm gonna pretty much take this off, turn this off, turn that off. Oh, that's right. I wonder where that was coming from. Okay, cool. All right. Sorry about this, you guys. This is the first time I've ever done one of these. So actually the second time, but it's been a while. So welcome to the 2023 Night Hunting Podcast. So we are live, and this is something that I wanted to do because, well, basically, I'm all into night hunting, and I think night hunters and night hunting, there's a ton of popularity right now. And I really wanted to create this because I feel like there's a gap. So, basically there are coyote hunters, there's hog hunters, there's dog hog hunting. And for me, I feel like we fit into the groove of night hunters, and night hunting. And I wanted to start this podcast. This basically is going to be kind of like it's going to be a weekly podcast at 9 p.m. on Tuesdays. And it's going to be more of like an interactive style podcast to where, we're going to go over some topics. Hopefully, we're going to have some interviews on here. We're going to talk about everything and anything to do with night hunters. And I mean, basically, we are looking at the night hunting podcast, an interactive podcast for night hunters that is just all about night hunting. So I've been fortunate to be in the night hunting arena, I guess, for the last 4 or 5 years. I'm not somebody who is out there, you know, taking down hundreds of predators a year. That is not me. Um, I am somebody who basically I work a full-time job. I have a business selling scopes, and it's a side business for right now. But what I do is, I started the business a couple of years ago, and the reason why I did it's because I just wanted to do something fun. And I'm very I love technology. I love night vision. I love thermal. Um, you know, Dating back to whenever we were kids, me and a buddy of mine, I remember we used to dream about night vision. We used to talk about it, how expensive it was. I mean, back when I was in high school, I remember we were looking at one time. It was like $24,000. It was so expensive. And the fact that we're in 2023 right now, and we have came such a long way from back in the 90s that you can get a decent night vision scope for $500. I mean, that's crazy. And back then, you're looking at Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3, and it was well into the 20,000. So it's cool. The technology's here. My name is Tony Abreu, and again, I've been a night hunter for about the past 4 or 5 years. I started out as a deer hunter. I myself, grew up in South Florida. We lived in a small town between Okeechobee and West Palm Beach. Lots of cattle out that way, lots of orange groves, lots of woods. My dad used to hunt in a place called the Corbett area, which was the public area, I think it's 180,000 acres, or it's definitely a lot, like 80,000 or something like that. It's a lot of acres. They used to build big buggies and just ride through the woods, and I'm sure it killed deer back then. Um, they used to do a lot of hog hunts as well. And back then, I just loved being out in the woods. And I had a really good friend of mine. We would spend time. I'd stay at his house on the weekends. We'd be out in the woods shooting BB guns and eventually 22s, and just did a lot of stuff out in the woods. And then as I got out in through high school, I started deer hunting. I went up to Alabama a couple times. I had a great uncle up there that was a really big deer hunter. And funny thing, you know, back then, deer hunting, I mean, I just remember seeing coyotes all the time and shooting coyotes just because they were passing through, and you just shoot them because I don't know, you just shoot them. I mean, they're eating everything, and it's a coyote. Remember back in the day too, out of high school, watching Randy Anderson, shooting coyotes during the day. I thought it was a really cool thing. But as I got older and I moved up to north central Florida, and basically did a lot of hunting up here. I like it up here. There's a lot of, I mean, it's not mountainous or anything, but there's definitely a lot more hills than where I'm from, and there's a lot of hogs as well. A lot of good deer around here. But the thing that kind of led me to this was the fact that I started working for this guy. He had basically like 65 acres on the edge of town, and it was like a zoo. Always lots of deer, lots of hogs, lots of game running through there. And basically I went to work for him, during in the early, like I'm gonna say like around 2013. And when I went to work for him, I was hunting out at that spot a lot, and the pigs were always, they were always running the deer off from the feeders and stuff. And basically, I remember the first shot at a night vision scope. I was out there hunting, and I actually got down. It was bow hunting. I actually got down from a stand, and there was a hog at the bottom of the stand. All I had was a bow, and it was a big boar hog, and he blew at me, kind of like a deer would blow. He blew at me, and just scared the crap out of me. And I was like, man, this stinks. And there was always a lot of pigs there. I mean, I remember one time taking out, it was during hunting season, rifle season, and there was two sows at a feeder, and there must have been 30 baby pigs. I mean, they were probably 4 or 5 pounds each. I remember taking out one of the sows, and there were just pigs running everywhere. But as this little 65-acre piece butts up to thousands and thousands of acres, the pigs, they just kind of move around in there. And I remember like I said, the first time I saw the night vision, it was the ATN scope came out. It was the HD model, and it was like $500 or $600, and I could afford one, so I bought one. And I remember, sighting that thing in, and shooting my first pig with it. And then something happened, and I updated that scope, and I let the battery run out, and it basically rendered it dead. And after that, I had to send it back. It wouldn't even power back up. And for some reason, it was in early in the year, because a couple weeks later, SHOT Show came, and I didn't even know what SHOT Show was. And we're going to talk a little bit about SHOT Show in a minute. SHOT Show, it's January 24th, and SHOT Show just was last week. They released a bunch of new scopes. I want to talk about that a little bit. But with that being said, the ATN released one of their version 4 scopes, night vision scopes, and I seen that thing, and the other one was in being repaired. And basically what I did was I got one of those new ones coming, and whenever that other one came back, I just sent it back because I didn't even have it long enough to really use it. So I got that thing, and then started going out there and shooting pigs at night. It was the funnest, craziest thing I've ever done. Eventually I got a golf cart. We would ride around out there in a golf cart and shoot pigs. And then this is the best part about it. one night we were out, me and a buddy of mine, and basically a buddy of his came up from South Florida and he brought a thermal. And I got there late, so they were already out there and they had already shot like a pig and a coyote. And I remember looking through that thermal for the first time. Holy moly. If you have not looked through a thermal and you get the chance to look through one for the first time, holy moly, it is like the most glorious thing you've ever seen. I mean, you can see everything depending on the weather, of course. And I remember looking at that thing and I'm like, wow, this is cool. But it was, again, expensive. And, back then, I believe the cheapest thermal you could even get into was about $2,000. And they weren't even really that good. And since then, that was in like 2014, 15, or maybe 16, 17. Yeah. And now, you can get into a thermal for $9.99. I mean, it's not going to be the best thing in the world, but it's definitely going to get you by. So fast forward a little bit, shooting lots of pigs there. Started to branch out a little bit. My wife, her uncle grows watermelons, and he generally had about 100 acres of watermelons every year. So there's thousands of acres of watermelons that get grown around here every year. And basically, he only did 100. And the one year that he did it, he got tags, and I learned all about the tag process, which is deer depredation. Now let's stop there for a second. So when I was a kid, I knew people that got in trouble for riding around fire hunting, which, a shotgun or rifle and a one-eyed dog. I mean, that's basically fire hunting, riding around with a spotlight, shooting deer at night on the side of the road. Well, fast forward to, 2018, 2017, now there all of a sudden, there's farmland, there's farmers that need help with deer because deer are eating them alive, on their crops. And the coolest thing ever is to be able to go out and shoot a deer at night legally. So I started getting into that a little bit. I was able to go out there and, shoot a deer or so before dark, but then I had the night vision scope and I started shooting them at night. And that was a lot of fun. And then I met the one farmer that changed everything. And I still had night vision, but I had a golf cart, and I met this guy. He had 80 acres at one spot. He had 400 something acres at another, but like 200 of it was open field farm. And then he had another 80 acres somewhere else. And I just was at his farm one day picking strawberries and just walked up to him and said, "Hey man, I got night vision. I was just looking to see if you had any hog problems." And didn't really know the guy, never even met him before. And basically he said, "No, I don't have many hogs, but I got a deer problem." I'm like, "Well, I like to eat deer and I like to shoot them too." So that turned into a pretty cool thing. He's like, "Well, give me a call next week and we'll set something up." And I did. And next thing you know, I started hunting on his property, the different farms. And basically I ended up we had like three different permits that we were hunting on that year. And in 3 months, I mean, I would go here and I would go there. I'd go 2 or 3 times a week. And in 3 months, me and, and friends, we basically harvested 30 deer in 3 months. And I'm going to tell you right now, that was a lot of work, but at the same time, I love deer meat, and I would rather shoot them at nighttime in the farmer's field than go out. And don't get me wrong, I like to kill a big buck every now and then, but at the same time, the older I get, the less time I really have to sit in a stand all day and wait on a big buck or chase a big buck. And I don't know, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I like to even be sitting in a stand just with the peace and quiet and serenity of it. But as far as like getting meat goes, if I were just daytime deer hunting, I would shoot more does and then just harvest, a big buck whenever I got the chance to, because I don't really like shooting small bucks anymore. But at the same time, the chance to shoot a deer at night on the field is so much easier and just so much more fun. And there's so much more meat. We were able to give a bunch of meat away. I got my process down and I just got really good at it. And then after that, I started selling scopes and basically worked my way into that arena, which was not easy. And here I am now. It's 2023, and we are starting a podcast. So that's pretty much the story of where I started out at. Now I want to go into basically why I am a night hunter and why I do the night hunting. So was doing a little bit of research on this, and basically coyotes, when I was a kid, we saw a little bit of them, there was a little bit, but it just seems like they just keep on coming. I've been hunting this property for one specific property for about 3 years now. And we went out the other night, last week, and we ended up shooting a dog in a spot where we always see two and only end up with one shot because of cows or cars or whatever. And we ended up getting one on the first set, and riding around for the rest of the night, we saw 5 more and just really couldn't get them. But, to see 7 dogs in one night, we've been hunting the same property for 3 years. My wife's uncle lives on it. One of the guys that I hunt with lives on it. It's just, they just keep coming. And there was a lot more than we saw. We just actually physically saw 7 dogs, and one of them we were able to get. The dogs generally, like, you would think that, or I see a lot of new people that are in this arena that are trying to get their first coyote. And I'm not a professional by any means, but I have a lot of time and I love calling them. There's just times where they're not going to pay you a single bit of mind. And that's just how it is. There's times where you're going to call one and he's going to run the other way because he's been called at before. There's times when you could go there one day and call them and they'll totally ignore you, and you could go back the next day and call them again and they'll totally come running. It's the weirdest thing. I never really put a lot of precedence on that, but I just go every time, keep an open mind, and just, try to get their attention, try to get them coming, and then try to take them out. So basically, the night hunting part of that aspect for me is about helping people or helping farmers to protect the livestock. That general area where I was talking about there, not a little bit of farming going on there, but a lot of cows. And generally, those dogs are in with the cows. They're running around through the cows, trying to get an easy meal. And we just like riding around trying to get in front of them. So, I did a little research before, and it's just an estimation, but coyotes generally about $33 million in livestock losses each year. So, that says a lot. And knowing what I know, if you think about it like this, right now is in the coyote season. The calves just dropped, so there's a lot of calves on the ground. Right now is the coyote mating season, and we actually, the other night, out of all the 7 dogs that we saw, we actually heard a little bit further south of us on another property, because again, there's thousands of acres that border where we are of just woods and deer lease and all this stuff. I actually heard a female running a mate, just sounding off like a mating style call. The long whines, and because I run an Icotec Outlaw or the Night Stalker, and they have quite a few different mating calls on their in their system. And one of the things I heard, I'm like, man, do you hear that? I was talking to my buddy, and it sounded just like one of the ones that we were running. I mean, it wasn't exact, obviously, but you could just tell the demeanor of what was going on there. I was like, dude, that's crazy. So it's definitely mating season right now in January. They've been doing mating obviously for probably over a month now or close to it. But they're definitely around, they're definitely sleek. And if you haven't seen or don't know about it, I mean, they're everywhere. They're in the streets, they are in the coyotes are everywhere. They're everywhere, and they're picking off your deer, they're picking off whatever they can pick off. They're picking off the people's cats, they're picking off in the neighborhoods, they're picking off small dogs. I mean, these things are wild, and they definitely are gritty. So for me, I just take them out whenever I can. I like it. It's fun, but I'm also, helping the farmers protect their calves and whoever else I can help in the process, because there ain't no stopping these things. So, I mean, there is, but, getting into the trapping and all that, but I do it for more for the fun of it. So that's about the coyotes. Now let's talk about the hogs. So hogs, same thing. And hogs, you may not know this, you may know this, but hogs actually eat fawns too. This picture right here was taken in by LouisianaBowhunter.com to give them props. Fox News. But yeah, I mean, hogs are destructive too. Not only are they destroying billions of dollars in property every year, I mean, they eat rattlesnakes, they eat whatever they can eat. They are just absolutely out of control. I believe one sow can have up to 15 babies per litter twice a year. But I mean, according to the USDA, they are destroying 1.5 billion estimated in damages each year. And I know there's people out there like in Texas and Louisiana that's all they do is kill hundreds of hogs each year. And every chance I get, I do the same thing. So as far as eating them goes, I know there's people that eat coyotes. I probably, for one, would never eat one. I can't say I would never eat one, but doesn't really interest me. As far as pigs go, I mean, I've eaten pigs my whole life. But I'm gonna tell you, we kill boar hogs and they stank. I'm talking about they stank. I'm not eating that. I'm sorry. It's just stank. Now, don't get me wrong. I have killed some boar hogs that don't stink, and that would be okay. But some of these boar hogs that we kill, I mean, they are nasty and huge. So definitely always like a good sow or even just a good little eater pig in the 80 to 100 pound range. But a lot of times when we kill pigs, it is late in the evening, or I'm like midnight or whatever, and a lot of times I got to go to work the next day, so I ain't messing with it. But it does happen, and I'm trying to help people protect their property. I'm trying to help, because I'm talking about these pigs are destroying farmland, they're destroying like private property, they're destroying people's yards, they're just tearing stuff up. And the way to stop them is to either trap them or shoot them. And you know what? If you're trapping, you're going to have to shoot some. And if you're shooting, you're going to have to trap some. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's going to be there. And this brings us back to night hunters, because we are night hunters and that's what we do. So that pretty much wraps up the basic on the night hunting stuff. Definitely want to, where I want to take this whole podcast. I want to definitely talk about gear. I want to get some cool people on here that are doing cool stuff in the industry. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of cool people across the country. Me, myself, I've done a little bit of stuff in Georgia, but mainly I'm just in Florida right now, but I am looking to expand and do some different hunts around the country as I grow here. And, just creating this podcast hopefully will be an outlet for that, as well as give me the opportunity to include some more interviews from other people and, just bring the stuff, to the podcast. So I'm going to go back to here, see is anybody's on here. wants to ask any questions, please feel free. This will be up. I'm going to keep this up. The next thing I want to do real quick, it's 9:30, so I want to jump into and talk about SHOT Show. So SHOT Show is the premier show every year. It's not open to the public. It's only open to dealers and people in the industry, media, stuff like that. And it's basically, where people introduce, or where all the companies introduce stuff that's coming to market. They just talk about what's already in the market. They do all the stuff that has to do with shooting, and also the scopes and everything. And I was going to go this year, but just it didn't really work out. But next year, definitely plan on being there. And I'll tell you, every year that it comes out, I just wish I was there. And, next year is definitely in my plans to be there. So just for the releases and all that, and to look at stuff and to make some videos and stuff like that. So the first thing I want to talk about as far as that goes, right now in the industry, if you're looking to get into night vision or thermal, night vision is generally the way that most people start. It's the way that I started. I mean, you can get into one for $500. And the Sightmark Wraiths are definitely a easy way to get in. There's a couple different models there, but in the process of becoming a dealer and doing all this, one of the companies that I really am falling in love with is AGM. And AGM stands for something. I mean, somebody told me what the name was. It's the first letter of three people's names, but basically AGM used to be owned by the same people that owned Armasight. Let me rephrase that. I messed that up. So Armasight was owned by the people that now own AGM, and they had that company, or a couple of them had it, created it, they sold it. And after that, they sold it to FLIR, I believe, and then FLIR quit producing scopes on the civilian market. And then it went back to AGM. It could be, I don't know. Anyways, AGM is a couple years old, but they are growing fast. And in my opinion, with all the opportunities that I've had to use different scopes, from Pulsar to ATN to Bearing Optics to I think that's all of them. Sightmark, to use all these scopes that I have, and there's other ones that are higher tier. You get into the Trijicons or the Envision, but for what AGM is, I mean, AGM is always introducing products that are really good in their price range. So, I mean, let's talk about this for a minute. I mean, this alone right here is the AGM Rattler. It's tiny little scope. It's a thermal, but I mean, it is, for the price, I mean, it's a really good price. They got lower model pricing. They have really good mounts on them. I mean, these little scopes are amazing, and they're just a good company, and I like them. And I actually sold a lot of their stuff last year, and I'm going to continue to sell it because I just feel like it's good for the money. And I know not everybody out there has a huge budget to work with, and I get that. But if you definitely are in a certain price range, AGM is going to get you there, and it's going to be it's decent stuff. So with that being said, there's certain brands that I don't really sell because of certain issues, and I'm not even going to really talk about that here because I don't want to bash any certain company. But the Sightmark Wraiths have been pretty decent and definitely a hot seller. But now AGM, they came out with mainly thermals, and then they actually they're into the Gen 1, Gen 2, and Gen 3 night vision, so a lot higher tier night vision. But this year at SHOT Show, they introduced the first digital scopes that they created, and basically they got the AGM Neath right here, which is their first one that they talked about, and it is night vision. It's got a little infrared right here. It runs off of a 18650 battery right there, and I'm looking forward to this coming out. You can get them a little cheaper than the website, than AGM's website. You can get them a little cheaper from my website, although these scopes right now will not be shipping out until, I would say, March. So not to get anybody's hopes up, but at the same time, I really can't wait to try it out, because I like their stuff on thermal and I know they're creating good products, and I'm really looking forward to it. I really like these scopes because they're compact. So a little more background on that. When I first started out, I had the ATN. It ran off of 4 AA batteries. The batteries would last about 2 hours, regular batteries. They were horrible. And I bought a $100 battery pack for it that weighed 2 pounds. I had that on an AR-15. I mean, the gun, it weighed probably 12 pounds once I set it up, and it was so hard to shoot unless you had a tripod. It's so hard to freehand. And, you know, after that one, and then I got the next one, the next generation from ATN, I just basically quit. I was like, man, I got to go lighter. So after that, I started, you know, just shooting smaller stuff, keeping it down to a 16-inch barrel. And now I shoot an SBR which is a 12-inch barrel, 6.5 Grendel. I love tiny compact scopes. I just like being light and being able to pick it up and move with ease. You know as well as I do, if you're out there and you're walking, a lot of miles, you're carrying all this stuff. It's horrible. That's why we use golf carts. We like to ride around the fields. I know you can't really ride around in golf carts in every single place, in every place in America, but if you can, or if you have the opportunity, man, golf carts are so effective, especially electric ones. 9 times out of 10, they just don't even know we're there because it's so quiet. So back to the Neath, though, this is the one they released, and then they have this one called the Horus, which comes from the Adder. This traditional style scope comes from the Adder line of thermals, and that's the Adder housing. And then this one, the Neath, comes from the Varmint housing, which I had one of these in thermal before. It had a rangefinder in it. It was a really good scope for the money as well. So that's pretty cool. They're coming out with these digital night vision. Also, another brand that I sell is Bearing Optics, and Bearing Optics has one. This is called the Hogster, and they have this one coming out called the Hogster Charge. I'm not sure that this is the exact model that's coming out, but it's going to be in this same frame here. And they're claiming that they are going to get Generation 2 clarity out of this scope with the sensor that's in it. And that's what they say they're using a 940 illuminator. So with your illuminators, you got a 850 and a 940 wavelength. The 850 is a little more redder. So if I were to shine, and I have one right here, if you give me a second. This is a Sightmark Wraith, but if you see the illuminator right here, when you turn it on, see that right there? Well, it's showing in that camera because it's really close to it, but if you were to look at that from 30 yards away, you couldn't see that beam unless it was shining directly in your eyes, and it's more redder. And the 940 is actually a more purple, so it's actually even less visible to your eye than the 850. And the Hogster Charge is supposed to pull in more light, like almost as much light as a Generation 2 style night vision, which is crazy. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out too. It's priced a little bit higher than the AGM ones, but definitely both of these companies are really good products. So looking forward to that. Also, the AGM has really good binoculars for the money. I started out with this TM160, which is very cheap, but You really can't see more than, you can see more than 100, but it's really hard. It's really 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 low, like it's 160 resolution, which is not very good. Then they came out with these 256 models, but I have actually owned the fifth, not the 15, but I've looked through one of these and got people that have them. And then I started out with basically a 384 that was a 1 power, really good little unit. You could see 700-800 yards with it. And this year they just released these sidewinders. So these are smaller and fit in your hand really well. These are a little bit bigger, and they are brand new to the market. They are coming out again early March, and those should be pretty hot sellers as well. Doing the night hunting that I do, it's really cool to have a short rifle or whatever, with a small scope on it, but to actually run a monocular is even better. And currently I am running this little Fusion monocular, which I'll show you here in a second. I'm running this 35-640 Fusion monocular. It's pretty small. It's got a 640 resolution in it. You can see over 1,000 yards with it. It's a 2-power. I can drive with it if it's really dark, if I need to see, driving through gates and stuff like that. It's got a rangefinder on it. I mean, for the money, you just can't beat this stuff. So this one's under 3,000. Just good stuff. So monocular, definitely, if you can afford to run a rifle scope in a monocular, it's good stuff. If you can't, then just run what you can. I mean, if you can just afford to run a night vision scope and get a monocular, I mean, that'll help you too. I did that too. When I was shooting deer, I would do that as well. I started out with that 160, and then I upgraded to that other one. It was like maybe 11 or 1,200 bucks, and that thing was amazing, man. Whenever you go from night vision to thermal, it's like crazy, because night vision sometimes is like tunnel vision, and thermal is just like wide open view, man. It's crazy. But anyways, that's pretty much some of the stuff that they released this year. Looking forward to this stuff coming out. And I definitely, this podcast is dedicated to the night hunters, but also I'm definitely going to promote my store, which is Perceptive Outdoor Gear. I'm centered around customer service. I just, I'm a night hunter, so I like serving night hunters. I've been serving them for since 2020. And I just, love night hunting, and I love helping people with the night hunting. I love helping people sight guns in, sighting the scopes in. I just love this stuff, it's really fun, and I like making videos. That's funny. But anyways, got another channel too, Perceptive Outdoors on YouTube, and you can check me out there, do a lot of scope reviews there and stuff like that, working on some other stuff there as well. And I'm working on some other stuff on a little bit higher level here in this general area as well. I'm going to be talking about that here in the next couple of weeks as I get it developed. But my goal here, I know this is the first one. There's nobody here right now, but people will see it. I plan on running these lives every Tuesday night at 9 p.m. And, this is going to go on. I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about what I'm doing. I'm going to maybe talk about weekly about what we're doing. I'm going to look at a property tomorrow that I have never hunted before. That's a couple 100 acres. I'm taking another guy out on Thursday to show him some scopes. I mean, this stuff is popular, and it's getting more popular. It's getting cheaper. It's just fun. But with fun, there's a lot of responsibility with it too. There's a lot of safety issues. There's just a lot of stuff we could talk about here. And even beyond that, there's a lot of stuff that, I've learned that I could share, that I will be sharing, that, may help you. And you might be a professional, you might be just starting out. It doesn't matter. To me, we're all night hunters, and we just want to go out and have fun, not step on anybody's toes, and help protect stuff. So with that being said, I guess if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer any questions. If you are looking for a night vision scope or an electronic call, I sell Icotech on the website. But any night vision scopes or thermal scopes or binoculars or even batteries, we got those. And if you're, just looking to connect, shoot me an email. I'll drop my email address. It's tony@perceptiveoutdoors.com. And check out the website, perceptivegear.com. You got YouTube, Perceptive Outdoors. And we're going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. I guess we'll see you on next Tuesday night. Thanks for watching. See you then.